Hello, Gemini friends. I'm Annie Botticelli, and welcome to my Gemini November 2024 Astrology Horoscope Forecast. You really need to know what I'm going to tell you in this report, so I'm making that the title because there are a lot of things that are just extra important that you need to know, not only for this November, but also for every November for all time. So this is for you if Gemini is your sun sign, your moon sign, your rising sign, or any other Gemini placement you're listening for. What I'm going to talk about here is part of your astrological picture. If you're a very late degree Gemini friend, so birthdays like June 15th through the rest of the sign, or Gemini degrees, 23 degrees through the rest of the sign, I suggest you additionally listen to my Cancer report, as your very late degree friends will benefit from both readings. We have a lot of stuff to talk about this month, but there are some really key things, and I'm going to start with some of them, and then we'll build the other pieces. So podcast friends, I'm going to put the thumbnail as the chart in case you know how to follow along. YouTube friends, I will be working on the chart. If you don't want to listen, if you want to just listen to it, you can find the podcast version, or you can scroll up on your screen so you don't see the visuals and you can just listen. And podcast friends, if you want to see the visuals, coming over to YouTube. Okay, so the first thing I'm just going to tell you right from the beginning that's really important to know, not just for now, but for every November and December ever to come, is that we tend to have a lot of planets in Sagittarius. The sun is usually there. This month, we're starting our Sagittarius party early because Mercury will get there right at the beginning of the month. The sun will get there on the 23rd, but Venus and Pallas Athena are already there. And in the days around November 30th through December 1st, we've got a new moon in Sag. And the reason why I'm starting with this, even though there are some other earlier things in the chart that I want to talk about, is because this is what I'm titling it. I'm just going to launch right into it, and we're going to just talk about it from the beginning. Sagittarius placements are like a sister to Gemini placements. They're very similar in a lot of ways, both an upward spiral, and they have some opposing forces as well that kind of glue them in place in this dual format. When the planets move through Sagittarius, they make what's called an opposition with Gemini placements. And this is a really big deal. And this is something important to know. And this, flooding of planets in opposition to you only happens once a year. And it does happen every year around this time. So that's why it's important to understand what we're going to talk about now forevermore, because you may solve certain mysteries as to why certain things tend to happen at this time every year and how you can best use the energy. Okay, so I'm going to break down this opposition energy and specifically the Gemini Sagittarius opposition energy so you can understand what's going on now in November, because we're starting, usually around November 23rd, the sun will get there, and then like the month of December, we'll have the things I'm talking about. But this year, all the way from the beginning, and even starting in October we have all of this Sag energy. So every time this happens, there are certain things that go on, and there is a push and pull between Gemini and Sag. So this is like, it's a push and pull dynamic. It's pulling you in two different directions, and it's giving you a chance to balance them all out. So Gemini is a short-term, detail-oriented, adaptable, seeking intellectual stimulation type of energy. You'll get distracted easily, and you're looking for basic truths that are easy to share and use. Sagittarius energy is long-term, big picture thinking, philosophical, and truth-seeking. Might not be as concerned with the mundane, maybe more concerned with the worldly, may not be as concerned with their neighborhood and be more concerned with the world. And so these parts of yourself are going to get pushed and pulled on at this time. If during the end of the year, you always feel like you want to go somewhere far and wide, and maybe you do, that's why this happens. If at the end of the year, you feel like you want to take some of the basic, practical, daily ways of doing things and make them just bigger, make them more philosophical, make them more truth-seeking or, substantial, there's this draw to make permanent, make bigger, amplify, whatever it is that you're doing, to go really big. And this happens now, and this happens every year. So you really need to know this because, first of all, it will answer a lot of things for you if you're noticing that this happens. And second of all, it will help you understand that you're aiming for balance between these two extremes. And while it's natural to focus on facts and information, which Gemini does, the Sagittarius energies are going to push you to step back and look at the larger picture, like from the top of a mountain. And then you can consider how the details you work with on a day-to-day basis can factor into a broader life plan or spiritual understanding or something that feels exalted in some way. Another thing that you really need to know at this time is that because of this upward spiral and the opposing energies, you will be running yourself ragged and you will likely be wearing yourself thin and you will be more susceptible to getting sick. So the things that you can do to take care of that, whether they're supplements or practices, I personally love the Donna Eden 5-minute energy routine. You can find it on YouTube. It's 5 minutes. It looks a little weird. It is energy work, but it really works. It really works to support your energy systems. And she actually has a book called Energy Medicine that is absolute brilliance if you are suffering with any ailments. And we'll get to that because we've got a full health house as well. But if you're suffering with any ailments, that is a resource that can be, I haven't really talked about that much. I don't know why, because I use it all the time, but you'll be running yourself thin. So your health may be under watch here. And this can help you to continue burning the candle at both ends for maybe a little bit longer, because that's kind of what's called for. Every year around this time, you may feel extra tension between yourself and others, because this first house and the seventh house is me versus we. We have seen long-term storylines with the Aries Libra eclipse cycle with me versus we. But this is something that's a specific polarity that will happen every year around this time. The goal here is to find ways of asserting yourself without neglecting the needs of others and vice versa. So trying to sort out maintaining your independence at the same time as you're going deeper in relationships and fulfillment in relationships is going to be the goal. If you have any Sagittarius friends, then you know that usually Gemini and Sagittarius people can talk forever and then they like work themselves up and then wind themselves out. So this is an exhaustive sort of energy because you're here, there, we're over here, we're over here, we're over there. And Sag and Gemini are the same way because of this mutability and this upward spiral. So just kind of managing with a little bit more center line up the spiral instead of being like all the way over here, all the way over there, all the way over here. Just trying to tighten up that upward spiral a little bit, through meditation, through writing exercises, through whatever kind of inner work, grounding practices. Tightening up that spiral can help you to be more centered, target your efforts, be more productive, do less work, and have better outcomes. There may also be at this time, not just now, but every year around this time, this tension between freedom and commitment. So the freedom of Sagittarius and Gemini, this is a common trait, but the topic of me versus we may bring this, this up. So partnership commitments may come up strongly to learn some lessons around at this time. Let's throw into the deal that Mercury is going to be in retrograde in the 7th house. Okay, so now let's start to bring the retrograde discussion in. And time is definitely going to be a time that is all about relationships because the Sagittarius planets will flood the 7th house. And then the remnants of energy that we still have in Scorpio is all about relationships. And as you can see in the bottom right corner, we still have a ton of Libra energy. So the energy of relationship is coming through the sign of Libra, it's coming through the sign of Scorpio, and it's coming through the flooding of the house of Libra, which is the 7th house. So all of the 3 main short-term transit houses are really being lit up for Gemini. And that's the reason why I'm focusing on this right, kind of side transit list here, rather than all this other stuff, is that most of this other stuff is long-term. They're all long-term transits, except Ceres is not as long. But those things have been there. They're going to be there. We could talk about those for a long time. We'll still be talking about the same thing. So the things that change in the short term are the ones that move faster. And those are, kind of coalescing here, with the exception of Mars, which I can get back to. Before we go into the retrograde discussion, I just want to talk about the elements a little bit. We've got a lot of Libra energy still. That is an air sign that works out really well for Gemini. That air energy is in a fire house, the house of Leo. Mars is about to leave Cancer, which is good for Gemini's elementally anyway, and go into Leo, fire sign, making a great angle for you. Only a few Scorpio placements left, and they're quickly changing into Sagittarius, fire sign, great for air. So elementally, this month is very supportive for Gemini. So that's exciting because we feel that, it's like the transits are speaking in your language, and that's important. I'm on the fence now. I feel like I want to talk about Mars first before we get into the retrograde discussion, because Mars will be part of that. For September and October, you had Mars moving through your second house of money. And so you may have been like an Energizer bunny, focused on your finances, focused on certain material items and, or ecological projects, and just navigating through topics like income, financial consciousness, and that's what's been going on. And Mars has also been in the sign of Cancer, which has brought focus to home and family and housing. So money with home and family and housing has been what Mars has been doing. Now about to go into Leo, like I said, it is a more favorable energetic for you because the water, it just doesn't really speak the language of air, the mental plane. But Mars moving through the third house might make you very communicative. And this is the house ruled by Gemini. So all your Gemini little flags are going to be up flying very high right now because it's all about this gathering information, sharing information, friendships, community, your people that social interactions. It could be about writing and speaking and editing, going back over details of things. So Mars will be there. And Mars doesn't go retrograde. Now we can start our retrograde discussion. Okay, let's get Mars in red. And then we'll get Mercury in blue. And we'll get some dates and we'll bring in how this retrograde lens will shade everything to give you some more things you really need to know. Mars started its retrograde calendar shift October 8th. It went into the pre-shadow transit period. Pre-retrograde shadow transit. December 6th is when it officially goes retrograde until February 25th. And then the post-transit goes well into May. Very long, very, very long transit. But here in November, every day we move through the month, we're almost there. So it really can come up. Mercury, November 8th was the pre-shadow period, is where it starts. 25th is the official retrograde. December 14th is the official direct. And January 3rd is the post-transit. So November and December are extra doubly covered in retrograde, and Mars is just deepening during that time. So there are three important things to know about retrogrades. The first is regarding scheduling and flexibility. Okay, leaving yourself as unscheduled as possible will allow you to make room for last minute magic of random things that may come in and opportunities at this time. It will also keep you from rescheduling a bunch of things when they get canceled, having nothing to do with you. Okay, so careful with your scheduling and be flexible. Geminis tend to be flexible, so yay, that makes it easier for you. And guess what? Mercury is your ruler. So it's not a surprise that you could work with its ways, better. Second thing to know is that it's a time to be the spider. In the time up until October 7th, it was the time to go out and weave as many webs as possible so that in this retrograde time, you could just hide in them and wait for food to come to you. So this is a time to see what comes to you, to be that person on the shore. And instead of trying to put your boat afloat when the tides are very strongly coming in, you just see what comes to you. So it's kind of like a chill, go with the flow, deal with the things that come to you. Don't conjure issues. Don't try to force anything to happen. And in general, most Geminis, unless you have other placements that dictate otherwise, can go with that because it's a natural way of being. The third thing to know about the retrogrades is to be the earthworm. And this is going to be, we're really going to be in strong retrogrades until spring or fall for you all, Dananda, of next year. And so this whole time is being the earthworm. When we look at the energetics of the earthworm in Ted Andrews' work, which if you don't know his work, he was a genius, really helped us to see how the language of nature can speak to us when we're, synced up with the natural rhythms. But the energy of the earthworm basically goes back over dirt and just makes it super fine. That's why farmers or people who garden will get earthworms in their plant pots, because the earthworms will just keep taking the dirt in the front and putting it out the back and taking it in the front and putting it out the back. And then it just makes the dirt finer and finer for future growth. So this is what you're doing now. You're just kind of taking things as they come, leaving yourself unscheduled, not picking fights with anyone. Picking fights during Mars retrograde transits can cause that energy to boomerang back to you, even if you are right. And just expect that everything will be questioned. Anything that's set will be called into question, and go with the flow. All right, so that's our Mercury part of this. So before we leave the 7th house, I want to just talk a little bit about the specific players in this Sagittarius party, because whenever we have what's called a stellium, which is 3 or more placements in a sign or house, it's like a party. And I always see it as a party where the party goers are the planets, and their particular personalities and proclivities will add to the party. The sign they're in is the type of party, and the house they're in is where the party is happening, or what it's, kind of what it's about. So the party is about relationships and about connecting with others because it's in the 7th house. The type of party it is maybe an internationally themed party, because Sagittarius is like that, where people are bringing big ideas and maybe dressing like ancient philosophers or, having different kinds of ethnic foods, just finding commonality or just fun things with world culture. So that's the kind of party it is. And then the people at the party are Mercury, who's super chatty, interested in everything. In retrograde, so super going back to the past, he's retro. The sun will get there. The sun amplifies everything. Venus is there, beautiful, in her beautiful gown, right? Pallas Athena is there, being bold, strategizing. But ultimately, this is about relationships, and communication is key. So Venus is going to encourage the harmony. Mercury retrograde may bring some misunderstandings, and may, pick the rugs up that everything had been dusted under. So things have to be, prepared for these open and honest dialogues to iron out confusion. This is a time where if you're brave enough to have a discussion about certain things, you may find that something you were holding against someone would never actually even happened, that it was a communication issue. This is definitely a time to reevaluate partnerships and maybe go back to friendships or partnerships that you had in the past, go back to clients you had in the past, do promotions that you did in the past, anything having to do with, jumping back into the past, especially in a short-term way. And you could also breathe life back into relationships and friendships by refreshing it with things that used to be fun. When you have Pallas Athena here, strategy is always going to be here, and she's conjunct Venus. So this could be a mastermind gathering. But remember, because of the retro tilt, it's going to be hard to make long-term decisions, but certainly short-term decisions, flexible decisions, and arrangements, things to experiment with are all relevant and good. Approaching relationships with strategy and care is another way to look at Pallas Athena there. In this way, you would avoid impulsive decisions and instead work on the longer term, even if you can't project out that far yet. The new moon there is definitely a powerful time to set intentions about any of these things. So in the days around November 30th. And that is actually a black moon, because November 1st, there's a new moon in Scorpio, which we'll get back to that. But for those of you in the Eastern time zone and west of the Eastern time zone, this will be the black moon. And then, I think I mentioned this before, but just in case, then those of you west or east of the Eastern time zone, you'll have your black moon at the end of December when the cat moon is there because a black moon is the second new moon in a calendar month or a sign. And then it has that extra, power. So you can focus on this new moon about what you want to attract and into your relationships, and how you want to transform your relationships, and how you want to manifest the type of partnership that aligns with your values. So that's all going on. Okay, so now let's dial back and look at some of this other stuff a little more closely. The 6th house will have the sun there. It will have the new moon on the 1st at 9 degrees of Scorpio. And then Mercury will be there just for a few days. So deep relationships are happening. And then the sun brings a spotlight into your health and wellness. It shows you where the cracks are in your systems. It shows you where the pressure is that needs to be reduced. And it shows you the things that are working. And it can give you, elucidate the path to transforming your health. So having the sun here, every year around this time, either the sun will bring in some sort of physical malady to show you that there's something going on under the surface, or you just start to get really interested in being your healthiest self and making better choices and putting systems together. The 6th house is very much about systems. This is in an awkward angle for Geminis, so some of the work that has to be done here may be a little bit of a stretch. You may be distracted or not want to commit to the things that have to happen, but this is what is calling out right now. Then Juno, Estrella, Lilith, transiting South Node, and Vesta are all in Libra, fellow air sign. Many, many, many kisses for Gemini in relationship space. So this is something you really, really need to know, is that this is a very blessed time for relationships. And when we put the retrograde back into it, people from the past, we talked about this extensively with the 7th house. If you need a job, if you need help, if you are trying to promote something, if you're looking for a home, if anything, go to the people that you know already. There will be a lot more fruit for you there because of the retrograde. And there may be new people that come in, but the relationships may be a little bit shorter or turn out differently than expected. Now, all this Libra energy, besides making that beautiful trine with Gemini, lights up your 5th house of your bucket list and your passion and your hobbies and your fun and your pleasure and your joy. Yay! So that's something that you really need to know also, is that this month, and not necessarily every year at this time, it just happens to be now. Usually you would be feeling this like September, October, but it's lingering longer this year. This focus on the 5th house and fun and just a break from the norm and just shaking things up a little bit. I'm giving you a lot of dates, and do know that I'm going to give you another one, but just want to tell you now, if you like the dates and you want my sweet and salty dates and the dates to be awareful and careful of, and my favorite dates of the month and a nice write-up that's organized, go to anniehelpsyou.com, put your name and email address in, click receive, and when you get the welcome letter, you'll get all kinds of goodies there, my zodiac health tips and my eclipse resource page and my 28-day virtual coaching program, just all kinds of stuff. But when you click on the archive and you put November 2024 in that archive, you'll get so many more dates, okay? But I am going to give you another one. Let's see. November 15th is the full moon at 24 degrees of Taurus. And that's going to happen in your 12th house. So this can be a really, really enlightening experience. Like, wow. And this is even made more so because of Uranus. It's going to be conjunct Uranus. I talk more about this in my report called November Nuisances, where I talk about the challenging aspects, some of the challenging aspects of this month. Because overall, this is a really lighter, easier, more flowing month than the months we've had recently. So to give some fair balance with how great it was, there were a couple of aspects that I didn't focus on. I'm not focusing on as much in these reports, but that you can see in the November Nuisance report. But in any case, the full moon is here. So this can be the coming alive of an addiction, or realizing that you have a problem with something and you need to deal with it. Could be a small one, could be a big one, could be a fear, could be something that you have to conquer, could be an old pattern, could be something genetic, could be something with your serotonin levels or your happy chemical cascade. Something could be going on there, for better or worse. Uranus tells us something's coming from the blue, and the full moon can bring drama, can also bring manifestation. It's in an earth sign, but it's in a water house. So it's very emotional, it's very psychological, it's very spiritual, but there's something grounded about it. There's something like an underlying stability. There's something that, is very relevant to the core of the structure of your being. If you like this video and my work, make sure you click the bell. Like, subscribe, and click the bell. I've heard if you don't click the bell, you won't get my notifications. And also, if you enable notifications, you're more likely to get, word when I post new things. Okay, so I've given you some dates to note for this month. If you want more dates because you want to see the sweet dates, the salty dates, when are the best days to do what? When are the best days to be awareful and careful of? Then go to anniehelpsyou.com, put your name and email address, and then click receive. And then you'll get into your inbox my welcome letter. In the archive, click on the archive link and put November 2024 astrology in the archive link, and that will bring you to my November write-up. Okay, so plus you'll get all kinds of goodies, and I'm always thinking of new ways to get goodies to my free VIP crew, which is what you become when you sign up there. You'll get my free 28-day, very comprehensive virtual coaching program for free. You'll get a Train Your Brain subliminal audio to relax and unwind to help you stay calm during tough astrological transits. You'll access my wonderland of astrology education to help you align with the natural rhythms of the month. I do send out monthly mini astrology lessons, and you do have access to all the archives as a member of my free VIP community. You also get access to my eclipse resource page to understand those cycles as they go through, and my health tips for the zodiac signs. So you just get so much. You can find it all in the welcome letter, so you can go there. Now on that same page, if you scroll down, you can access my secret star portal. This is where you will find my 2025 retrograde direct calendar for your planning, to know the open windows for next year, the times that will be much easier to push things out when the tides are going out. And if you want to learn astrology, I'm your girl. I've got a ton of free things. Obviously, if you're listening to my work, you see that I'm teaching for free online. But if you want a more structured system and you want to learn how to become a professional astrologer, either just to help yourself and your family and friends or to earn money, that is my area of expertise. I've been teaching astrology for 20 years. I've been a successful astrologer for 20 years. And also a successful online practitioner for a good bit of that time. And it all comes through in my Become a Professional Astrologer Mastery course. So you can click on Up Level there and see my basics course, or which you get that course for free when you join the Professional Astrology Certification course. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.